Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today I want to talk about the psychology of daily practice and of living the Dharma. Let's just make sure my head's not getting cut off here. Okay. A little background on me. I started yoga regularly, probably around 2000. Daily practice started, probably home practice consistently started in 2004, like 4 or 5 times a week. Daily home practice started in 2006 when I began teaching. And I'd miss the odd day here and there, maybe a day a month or 2 days a month or whatever. And then I started doing 40-day practices, 90-day practices, 120-day practices, where I would choose a specific practice and commit to it for that length of time. If I fell off the bandwagon, like on day 35, I'd have to start again on day 1. So I did that for probably a good 7 years. And in that time wrote 40 Days of Yoga, which is about the psychological process of showing up to practice every day. And then in 2015, I committed to 1,000-day practice of a particular variation of Uchara, which is a classical tantric practice. And I dropped the ball on day 338, started again, dropped the ball again on day 617, started again, and completed that 1,000 days. It was either last year or the year before, but I just kept going. And last year I also started, it's not a 1,000-day practice, it's an everyday practice until I get a dream from the ancestors, an ancestral karma prostrations practice, which I've done for more than a year. So suffice to say that daily practice and the psychology of daily practice and what it takes to show up and to work skillfully with the mind has been what I've been immersed in for the last 18 years. And it's still a thing for me. There's still days when I don't want to practice, and there's still days where I don't make time for practice, and I have to squeeze it in. But it's become so ingrained now, like absolutely so ingrained, and I don't even forget anymore. When I dropped the ball on day 617, I forgot. And it's worth pointing out that there isn't, from the perspective of committing to practice, if you forget, that still means you start again on day 1 if you're committing to a specific time frame. Alrighty, so I want to give you a nutshell thing here. The psychology of daily practice is that you want to use commitment and containers and accountability to get to a point where you're not choosing whether to practice or not practice. That's the game changer, right? It's like you have to train yourself into a place where it's just a non-negotiable, it's such a deep part of your identity that regardless of anything, you always show up for practice. You don't think about it. And that's the critical piece, right? And it takes time to train yourself to get to that point. Now, for most people, practicing every day is like a choice. It's like, oh, should I practice right now? Oh, no, I'll go do this. Should I practice now? Oh, I'll go do that. Oh, should I practice? Oh, it's 11 o'clock. Should I? Nah. And the mind can just get in there with all the different reasons and excuses like, I'm too tired. I'm too busy. I don't have the right space. People might hear me. I can't remember what to, like, there's just all of these reasons that the mind can throw up about why to not practice. And if you're in that space of the mind saying that, then you have to argue with the mind. It's like, who's arguing with who? And often the mind will win, right? But there's a point that you can get to where the arguments never happen. Okay. So today, over the last year, I've also walked every day for 6,000 steps. Now, not every day, but I've been fairly consistent. Like my longest run, I think, might have been 180 days in a row. It's been very consistent. And then over the last week, for the first time, I have missed 3 days. I think I missed in the last week, in the last 5 days. I only walked 2 out of the last 5 days. And this morning, when I got up, I have plenty of time, my usual rhythm, go for a walk. And the little part of me, the little voice was like, oh, you got heaps of work. Maybe you just get stuck into work. You don't need to walk today. And I was like, whoa, I haven't heard that voice in months. It just has not arisen at all. And it was very interesting to watch that voice arise and to just be like, I'm walking anyway, I'm doing the thing. But I could feel that temptation. That part is like, oh, it doesn't matter, whatever. You've already missed 3 days this week. What does it matter if you don't walk now? You're leading a retreat next week and you know you can't walk when you lead a retreat. So does it, all of this kind of thing. I walked. It was awesome. I will walk every day until I go and lead my retreat. So when it comes to the psychology of daily practice, daily yoga practice, it's really important to remember that when you start showing up for practice every single day, no matter what, that you are going to come up against the deep inner work. And that can be challenging and it can be painful. And it often means that we have to dissolve aspects of our identity that we're very attached to. And it often means we have to go through initiations and through the darkness. And of course, right, the mind wants to control things. The mind does not want to let go of control. The mind does not want to dissolve the identities, go into the darkness, feel the pain and the discomfort, etc. This is what you must do if you're dedicated to practice, if you're dedicated to awakening and liberation. So, of course, the mind is going to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't and don't need to practice. And if you understand this to begin with, if you understand that committing to daily practice is actually really about learning how to discern and skillfully work with what arises in the mind, then it's going to be so much easier to do the thing. Okay, so the psychology, just to like sum it up in a nutshell, the psychology of daily yoga practices is all about getting to a point where you no longer have to even think about whether you're going to practice or not going to practice. It has simply become one of the deepest levels of identity. And in fact, on the yogic path, um, this is like the last identity to burn up, the one who practices daily, right? So this is the identity that you want to install and embed, is the one who practices daily, okay? And to recognize too that it's not in your mind's interest for you to show up to practice every day, because the mind has to surrender control. The mind has to let go. The mind doesn't want to do that, right? So those are the two things to realize. Now, if you want support with showing up for daily practice, I'll throw some links down the bottom. I have a book I published in 2013, sold thousands of copies, 40 Days of Yoga. It takes you systematically through that psychological process. And I'm probably going to run an online immersion that supports people in this process as well, because I feel like this is super critical. It's really important. If you're on the spiritual path and you're not yet showing up for daily practice, that is the thing to focus on. Focus on. Don't focus on trying to learn more things or get more practices or go to more workshops or do more retreats. No, 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 no. Daily practice. If that has not yet dropped in, this is what is needed for you. Okay. Blessings on your journey. Blessings on the goddess. Thanks for watching.